So after a few months of it being on my list and it being in the back of my head as something I should do, I finally got around to watching Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And I'm very happy to say that it lived up to the hype. Now it's been a few years since I saw the first movie, so my thoughts on it could be subject to change if I ever decide to watch it again. But what I will say about it from memory is that it's a movie I can't really remember finding myself personally connecting with. I really remember appreciating the animation style, but come to think of it, that's the only thing I really appreciated about this movie. I think the humor for the most part just really did not work well for me. I can't really remember myself being emotionally connected to any of the character moments within this film. But it seems like all those issues that I had with the first one were really rectified with this one. For one, every single character is incredibly well written and all their motivations are well delivered. They had some really great character moments throughout this movie that really connected with me on a deep level. The banter and dynamics along with the humor in the film just felt very well done and natural. The villain in this film is certainly very funny, and his powers certainly are just an excuse to have some very expressive and interesting forms of animation along with the ideas and concepts for the universe. And the animation in this film is just taken to the next level. Right from the opening sequence in this film, you can tell that you're going to be in for a treat. There are so many incredibly well conceptualized ideas that go along with this film, and there certainly are a lot of different types of animation that they used in this movie for certain scenes, and it feels like it fits certain characters very well. Now this is pretty common knowledge at this point, but I feel like I should mention it anyways. This is a part 1 of a film, and so long as you go into this movie with that in mind, it will really improve your experience. Anyways, I absolutely love this movie, and I can't wait for the sequel to come out later. And this one gets a very strong 8 out of 10. So since I knew I was going to be talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, a movie that greatly mimics the comic book style, I thought it would be appropriate in this video to talk about one of my favorite comic book movies ever made, as well as just one of my favorite films ever made, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Now, like I said, this movie is based off a comic book series written by Brian Lee O'Malley, and I've also read the comic book series as well. Now, when you compare Scott Pilgrim to his other works such as Seconds and Lost at Sea, it's clear that this is the best out of all of them. In comparison to those other two works, it just feels that Scott Pilgrim has all the elements that work well together. The humor, the pacing, the relationship drama, and just the rules and how this universe works. It also has a very clear image of what it wants to be. And I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy parts of Seconds and Lost at Sea, but they just didn't feel like they had a fully realized vision beforehand. Now, in comparison to the books and the movie, I would say that I do enjoy the movie more for a variety of reasons. One of them, it's just a much faster ride and has better pacing in my opinion. It trims the fat out of a lot of side plots and storylines out of the comics, but it still manages to retain the heart and soul of the comics. I think Michael Cera in the lead role is definitely positive to this film. He certainly fits the character very well. The film really does feel like it has its own sense of style and personality. Now, the most notable thing about this film is the visual effects and how it mimics the style of a comic book. It is endlessly creative within its presentation, not to mention that the character and humor writing in this movie is absolutely fantastic. Edgar Wright certainly has a really great understanding of how he wants to pace his films with the plot and comedy, and he works tirelessly to make sure that these two elements are intertwined with each other to improve the pacing. Every scene is its own opportunity to show things in a creative, interesting way. The music for this film also fits it very well. Now, this movie is really its own experience, so I recommend that everybody go watch it, and this one gets a 10 out of 10. So another movie that I recently just saw for the first time and one that I want to talk about is Pig, starring Nicolas Cage. And this movie was definitely very enjoyable. A great aspect to this film is that it has some pretty nice cinematography here and there. The opening title sequence does a great job expressing the tone and atmosphere of this location to the story. There's some really nice color grading going on in these great woodlands, and it all looks beautiful from a technical standpoint. The pacing of this film is also very well done. This movie is only 96 minutes long and it greatly benefits from that fact. There's a certain mystery element to this movie as information gets revealed along at certain scenes, and it helps keep the viewer engaged in what's going on. It also helps you learn about this main character and his past and what he's going through. And even if there are scenes of just characters expressing their emotions and talking about things that have happened and just kind of more somber, slowed down, it never really feels slow or like it's wasting its time. The writing in this movie was very well done for the most part. Now, this is a friendship type movie with the two main leads being Nicolas Cage and Alex Wolff, and they certainly have a very fun, watchable dynamic together. The writing in general is also very well done with certain scenes. In fact, there's one scene where it has a sort of submersive element as it's starting off, but then it just gets deeper and deeper in other emotions, and it is truly well executed. Now, in terms of general writing, there are certain conventions in this movie, but they do feel twisted in a way for this type of story, and I really did enjoy the ending on how it dealt with its concepts of trauma and grief and moving on. This is a truly very enjoyable film, and this one gets a 7 out of 10.